Hey everyone, welcome to GVN Interviews. My name is Mike Vaughn, and I am really excited because I have the director and actors from A Wounded Fawn, which is a fantastic film. I think prepping for this interview was like my fourth time watching it, so it was
Nice.
yeah. Sometimes it's a little bit of a chore to rewatch these movies, but certainly not yours. It was a lot of fun because I think every time I watch it, I pick up something different, like a little detail that I didn't necessarily see the first time. So I think that's pretty awesome.
I feel like that's how I am in real life. Like maybe I don't come across great the first time, but if you like hang out with me three or four times, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. So,
Yeah,
so I
I think
appreciate
that's
that.
how I am too. So kicking off, this question's for you, Travis. This movie has a great Euro 80s vibe. I'm assuming that was maybe intentional.
Yeah, I mean, it was because what happens in the story is so simple. Like I wanted to tell it in a sort of visually interesting way. And what I mean by simple is the plot is pretty you know, guy and girl go to a cabin, he tries to kill her, it doesn't go as planned. But in that sort of looking for inspiration on how to tell the story, looking at sort of 70s and 80s films, Fulci or Kaneto Shindo, who did Kirineko or Onibaba. Um, there was a film called Angst by Gerald
Oh
Cargill,
yeah. Uh-huh.
where they get a little more surreal, or like Jodorowsky's El Topo was another
Yeah.
one I sort of
Nice.
showed to the DP to be like, we've got a story that's pretty simple, but let's look for every opportunity to sort of push the visual language into unexpected ways that is expressing stuff emotionally that the plot is only hinting at. So it ended up the aesthetic felt really aligned to like some of those movies from the 70s and 80s.
Nice. And speaking of aesthetics, I think I heard that this was shot on film. Is that right?
You heard correctly. It was every single second of it shot on glorious Kodak film. I don't know. I'm like whatever. I was excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of just the look and feel of again like this, great grimy Euro trash movie. You really nail it. So yeah, kudos to that. So this next one's for Josh and Sarah. What was your first impressions of the script?
I just never read anything like it. I thought that Meredith really came to life on the page, just reading it, which was really exciting. I found her really relatable and interesting and complex, and I liked that she she wasn't a naive, and sometimes that's the victim is naive and learns their big lesson in the movie, and in this one she's sort of already learned it, so she's kind of like, I guess, leveling up in her understanding of, I don't know, bad people or something like that. And then aside from that, a lot of the visuals you see in the movie are written in the script,
Hmm.
and they're impressive when you watch the movie, and then when you're reading it, it was the same. So it was all very striking.
Nice.
I hadn't read anything like it before myself. I mean, I think the first impression was, holy shit, this is like Patrick Bateman in the Evil Dead cabin. Like, come on. But the Deadites are the Greek goddesses of vengeance, like are the Furies. It's so wholly original. So I read it, and I knew I had to do it. I wrote Travis immediately and said, yes, what can I do to get to New Jersey immediately and and start playing this character.
Yeah, and that's so funny that you mentioned the Evil Dead because in my notes I was like, you kind of become like a darker version of like Ash by the end of it. It feels very much kind of in that wheelhouse. Travis, was that something that was intentional? That it was a little bit Evil Deadish, or is that just like
Well,
happenstance?
so I think in the original script written by Nathan Fawdry, the sort of winks to Evil Dead were already there. I mean, the character's name is Bruce. Like, and he's like, yeah, and I think in all of my films, there's tons of winks to Evil Dead, which isn't necessarily intentional. It's just sort of how I picture a horror movie. The car should be yellow, and the guy should be wearing a blue shirt. I don't know why, but uh, but yeah, I think that one of the things that I like, and I don't know if it how much it comes across in the films themselves, but I like a movie having a conversation with movies that have come before, little footnotes, little references, because I like that idea of a sort of a timeline of movies, a lineage of movies that get passed down and passed down, and that the movie you're making is in conversation with movies that have come before. And so in this movie, as Bruce his delusions get grander and grander, it seemed like we could go into some of the more high energy, slapsticky Sam Raimi stuff and still have it work in the context of this story.
Yeah, and high energy indeed, which I think is kind of a great segue into my next question, which was for you, Josh. What was it like playing such a huge bombastic character? I mean, you really go all in this, especially towards the end. I mean, that must have been just very draining.
It was energizing. I mean,
Hmm.
I was I felt hardly drained. I actually remember, and maybe it was because of the diet I was on at the time, not eating anything I wanted to, was pretty much the name of it. No noodles. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. It was the set and sequence where he had killed Malin Barr's character in that nice house, just for Bruce's first kill, really. And it was 4 in the morning, and I remember the makeup artist saying, "Why do you have so much energy?" I think it was just because I never get to play this type of character or play in this sort of sandbox. It's a sandbox that I love, and sort of dipped into it and a little bit in my first movie, but nothing quite like this. So this is a dream. It's a dream role. It was only fun. It was only ever fun to do. It never like brought me down. I would go back to our funky little hotel and just sort of like be really eager to get back to do it all over again.
Yeah, excellent. And Sarah, you were so excellent in this. Your character is so well developed, and it kind of had me just like on the edge of my seat because you do really love Meredith. You root for her character. You really are a huge factor in kind of bringing that to life. And you also have a really interesting thing where you get to play with snakes. So what was that like?
The snakes were consummate professionals. They just they're the real stars of the movie. They knew exactly what to do, and as soon as they called rolling, they were just like on. It was great. I like snakes a lot, but I'd never had them all over me before. Uh, and it's pretty it's such a dumb thing to say because they're just a tube of muscle, but like they're so strong.
Yeah.
They like curl around on your head, and my head would be like getting wrenched around. And, yeah, it was great.
But no prior phobia, I assume for
No, like I really like snakes. Like I just pick them up off the road or whatever. Like I like snakes. So
nice.
it was, yeah.
Yeah, and there's kind of that shocking ending, which I'd love to discuss really quick because it's so jarring. It's maybe one of the most jarring endings I think I've seen in a long time. Travis, tell me about how that scene was to shoot and like how long, because this is a very long sustained take. So like how long did that take and how kind of grueling was that? And Josh, to be writhing around just for that long, it's so chilling. That there's something darkly funny about it. So I'd love to hear more about that.
But I'll just say from my end, it was you're making the movie for the end result, the end product, the thing to show to audiences, right? And that's one aspect of making a movie. But also you're making art, right? So as you're doing it, you also are getting a different experience from it beyond what it is when it's done. So for me to be able to sit there and watch these two performers, it was one take, it was 11 minutes long, which is a reel of film, and to watch these two performers sort of dial in this game of tennis that they're playing between what Josh's character is doing and Sarah's character. Like just as an artist, to just sit there and watch it was like one of the high points of any time I've been on set, because it's about subtlety. I mean, obviously Josh was doing something big, but that sort of dynamic between the two actors, there are little subtle things that you're just watching because there's not tons of shots and coverage and you're moving on to the next. You're just sort of like putting this play up and watching this one act take place. So I can just say, watching how committed Josh was to it and watching Sarah's sort of little arc happening, it was so much fun.
Nice.
When Travis said we're gonna do this in in one, I don't remember if it was planned or if it was like a moment of necessity, like for time. I can't remember because we were definitely losing light, and it was this thing, but that's always such a thrill, I think, for the same reason. It's like we're making art, and this is as filmmakers, the thing we unfortunately hear is, yeah, well, your movie's got to be loud. You gotta have the water cooler moment. You gotta make a splash. What's the thing that's gonna make it a splash? And this movie's wall to wall splash water cooler moment, so to speak. And so and it goes out on such a bang because the artist at the helm is willing to say, hey, let's do this. Let's take this swing. Let's blow 11 minutes on this, on this this moment. I don't want to say blow it, but express it in this 11 minute cartridge.
Nice. So it looks like I need to wrap up soon, but I just wanted to ask what this is for everybody. What would you want the takeaway to be from this film? Like, what would you want an audience to get after the credits roll?
I like, because this is something that I'm thinking about a lot these days. I think if you start with the question, did the Furies or Meredith get revenge or justice against Bruce? That conversation leads in a really interesting direction, because even Travis and I have different answers to whether justice is served in this movie, and it leads you to question, like, well, then what does justice mean to you? What does it look like functionally? What does justice actually mean? And it's a much harder to answer question than I think we normally expect, because it's a word that we hear so much. So that's what I'm hoping will happen, is sort of an interrogation of justice in this movie and in the world at large. It's a little lofty, but I that's one of the things I enjoy about the movie.
Great.
I hope that people will regard it with the other great genre films that have taken swings, and that it has its long, well-deserved, and I think well-earned cult life. And I do think it will, because it is so wholly visionary and singular. It's been wild to see festival after festival pick it up as one thing, but also just the kind of fandom, the reaction to it, the fact that people have seen it multiple times and are only more excited about it or picking more up on it or appreciating more about it. If you're not appreciating the visuals in one of the performances, in the other, watch down, it's Val's score or the art of the wardrobe, just the ride of it and the jump scares of it all. So I hope people take away, they go, I'm going to watch this thing every year when it gets blustery, or I can't wait for this to be the one that I show buddies, that like, oh, have you heard of this one? I got to show you this one. We're going to throw it up on the projector, and I'm going to be the one to introduce it to you. Have you heard of it? You haven't, whatever. This is going to be the one I'm going to introduce to you, because this would be the VHS that I think we all probably would have discovered as kids at the sleepover, or on like, some obscure dude's shelf at a cabin, and like, let's just throw this thing on, and then it will like change your mind about filmmaking or about artistry, and go, oh shit, I want to make that, or I want to do that, or that rewired my brain the way that like Cronenberg rewired all of our brains when we saw our first Cronenbergian image in the 80s.
I think both of those answers are incredible. So I'll end with a flip answer, which is I hope people buy Shudder subscriptions for family members so they can watch this movie.
Man.
Because we went for it. We
Yeah.
went for it. We fucking went for it, and we just hope people enjoy that aspect of like, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. It is fantastic. And as you mentioned, it is on Shudder. It is coming December 1st. I highly recommend it. Again, I've watched it multiple times. I'm like, could watch it multiple more times. Y'all are fantastic. Yeah, it's really worth checking out. And thank you all so much for taking the time to talk to me about this fantastic film. And looking forward to seeing everything else y'all do in the future. So
Thanks so much.
Good chatting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, see ya.
Hi, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.